Hearses. We don't really think about them until we have to. They're weird, oddly specific vehicles used for one purpose.
Transporting the dead.
Name another vehicle that's only for dead people. Why do we need them? Why don't we just use a fancy pickup truck? Today, we're gonna look at the history, or rather the herstory, of these vehicles and how they've evolved from horse-drawn carriages to the six-figure luxury chariots of today. We're gonna take a look at the world's fastest hearse, how a JDM hearse differs from the US, and figure out what the heck that curved bar on the back is for. It's about to get spoopy in here.
You ever think, dang, I want to do some cool stuff, but I don't have the right hat? Boom, problem solved. Introducing the first official Kentucky Cobra hat. Perfect for doing anything in. Perfect for doing stuff like this. Perfect for climbing ladders. Perfect for shredding. Perfect for chilling on the couch with your boo. She's in the bathroom. I've been waiting so long for these to come out. We've been working on them for a while, and I'm really stoked on how they turned out. High quality embroidery on the front. That's the new official Kentucky Cobra logo. Donut hit in the back, also embroidered, mesh back. I love the fit. It's my new favorite hat. I can't wait to see you guys wearing them. Post pictures on Instagram, tag me in them. I will repost. That's how you're gonna look when you buy one.
Ever since dead people have been buried, there's been a need to transport their body to the burial site. For most of recorded history, the vehicle that transported the body was either a couple of strong boys or a primitive wagon or carriage. Like most things surrounding death, the transportation became a ritual and tradition. As a symbol of respect for the dead and the afterlife, the carriage started becoming more decorative, a tradition that can still be seen today. Objects like the decorative platform the body was displayed on, known as the catafalque, and the pall, the cloth that lay over the body, became part of the ritual. Drapery, beautiful hardwood, and ornate glass started adorning the coach. The word hearse actually comes from the medieval Latin word hersia, which translates to large plow or rake for breaking up soil, because of the iron shape. By the 1600s, anything that supported the coffin was being called a hearse. Ornamentality blossomed during the Victorian era as we started to see hearses with lanterns, carvings of things like doves and scrolls, and velvet curtains. The first motorized hearses were actually electric. In 1895, banker J.P. Morgan gifted the city of New York with an electric hearse which doubled as an ambulance, which probably means that ambulances weren't that effective at the time, I guess. It wasn't until 1909 that the first hearse powered by an internal combustion engine showed up on the scene. An undertaker in Chicago by the name H. Durward Ludlow, let's just take a second to appreciate that name, H. Durward Ludlow, H commissioned coach builders to construct a vehicle with the coach body of a horse-drawn carriage and the chassis and front end of a bus. The first ever automobile funeral attracted a lot of attention, and soon, people from all around the country started commissioning Ludlow's hearse for their loved ones' funerals. But the idea didn't catch on right away with other funeral directors. The cost of building a hearse in those early years was around $6,000, or $185,000 today. It was too expensive for most other funeral homes to commission a hearse of their own, considering they could have a traditional horse-drawn hearse built for the quarter of the price. The first company to start commercially producing motorized hearses started up that same year, 1909. Crane and Breed Manufacturing of Cincinnati, Ohio were like the Bugatti of hearses. And they also made these creepy coffins. C&B took their already elaborate, detailed design from the horse-drawn hearses they were already making and applied them to these new vehicles dubbed auto hearses. They dropped in a 30 horsepower, 4-cylinder engine mated to a 3-speed transmission. It was rear-wheel drive, chain-driven, and could go, quote, 15 miles per hour faster than any hearse should have to go, which was 30 miles per hour. It didn't take long before engine technology and production streamlining advanced and became less expensive. Eventually, funeral directors realized that with these new motorized hearses, they could host more than one funeral a day, and hearse building friggin' slapped in the 1920s. One holdover from the carriage days was the color black. Black traditionally signifies mourning, which explains why most hearses you see are black. Of course, there are other colors of hearses like white, which can signify the afterlife, or plum crazy, which signifies that you're ready to crack open a cold one with Dale Sr. and Tupac over there in heaven, and gold, which you can see in Asian cultures. In the 1930s, the shape of the hearse transitioned from the tall carriage-derived greenhouse to the longer Landau limousine style shared with modern hearses. If you remember from our car shapes wheelhouse we did a few months ago, the Landau and the Landaulet styles have retractable soft tops which have a distinct S-shaped bar called the Landau bar that supports the convertible top. Most hearses nowadays don't have a retractable top, but that bar remains a stylistic relic of the past. Honestly, hearses look kind of weird without them, even though they don't do anything. If you're like me and most of your friends are funeral directors, you probably won't catch them actually using the term hearse for these types of vehicles. The proper term nowadays is funeral coach. People in the death care industry, and yes, that's what they rebranded as, are trying to phase out the word hearse because of the grim implications. When I hear the word hearse, I think of like Rob Zombie. They put a positive spin on it by calling it a funeral coach, kind of like a bus that offers a one-way ticket to two very different locations. In the US and Europe, luxury car brands supply most of the donor cars for modern funeral coaches. You got Lincoln, Mercedes, Rolls-Royce, Jaguar, even Maserati. One manufacturer that has absolutely dominated the funeral coach market, at least in the US, is Cadillac. And be honest, when you picture a hearse, it's probably a Cadillac, right? Am I right or am I right? Japan has its own style when it comes to hearses. Oh, you thought we weren't going to talk about JDM hearses? Thought wrong. The so-called Japanese style of hearses are decorated to look like Buddhist temples, and there are actually a few different types. The Nagoya style has both the top and bottom decorated. The Tokyo style has just the top decorated in ornate gold accents, and then there's the Kansei style, which is undecorated, and the Kanazawa style, which is painted all in red. It's pretty sick. SR, can I get a S14 Kanazawa style? Thanks. Funeral coaches don't come pre-built from major manufacturers. They're built by companies that specialize in custom fabrication. These companies most always build limousines as well because it's a very similar process. These donor cars are chopped in the middle of the chassis and split apart. Steel extenders are then welded in to lengthen the frame. Extra doors and panels are fabricated to cover the new extended section. Then a fiberglass shell is attached to the back. Things like the wiring harness and gas line also have to be lengthened. Wood paneling is added to the bed in the back, and rollers are put in to make loading and unloading the coffin easier. When a coffin is inside a funeral coach, devices called beer pin plates keep it secured so it doesn't shift around when the car is in motion. The name beer doesn't mean brewski. It comes from a device that was kind of the precursor to hearses, a precursor. A bier was a wooden platform that was used to transport a body and had wheels or even just planks that slid over the ground. They're so old, they were mentioned in the Bible. Nowadays, beer lives on in name only. This bespoke Jaguar hearse is built using a bunch of custom-made parts that are hand-molded by technicians. The amount of work that goes into each vehicle is tremendous. They're keeping the art and tradition alive. Look at that long boy. Something that really surprised me is that they use stock engines. I would have thought that all the extra weight would mean that they need more power, but it only adds about 800 pounds to the total weight. That sounds like a lot, but these luxury cars have already very powerful engines in them, so it's not really an issue. There is one exception that's worthy of a small detour. There's a dude named Arnie Toman that built a hearse to break the world record for fastest hearse. It's a 730 horsepower, turbocharged, 6-liter LS-powered Chevy Caprice, fully functional hearse with AC and rollers in the back. Not only that, it's Iron Maiden themed with an airbrush scene on the hood and red leather interior. Arnie smashed the world record for fastest hearse with a quarter-mile time of 9.4 seconds at 146 miles per. That's fast. This is a 9-second car, and it's a hearse. If I drove a hearse, I would drive this one. I mean, I already have my S14 hearse, so this is my second hearse. We always say that you should have 3 hearses. You gotta have your daily, you gotta have your fun hearse, and then the weekend hearse for going to Home Depot and getting some deadbolts. It's the only thing There are actually hearse car communities around the world, much like other niche car communities. Hearse groups like the Michigan-based Just Hearsing Around cruise slowly in their tricked out hearses and hold a Guinness World Record for the longest parade of hearses that they set in the town of Hell, Michigan. That's pretty tight. If you live in Hell, let me know how it is in the comments. Anyway, back to regular funeral coaches. All that fabrication that's needed to lengthen these vehicles takes an already expensive car and makes it more expensive. A typical funeral coach nowadays costs between $60,000 to $110,000. For a funeral home that's just starting out, that's a huge investment, but it's a necessary one. After all, a nice funeral coach can really do wonders for business. Remember before when I mentioned the death care industry? Well, I know this is a car show, but I thought this was too interesting not to talk about. The industries surrounding death, like funeral homes, casket manufacturing, hearse fabrication, etc., are very lucrative. You know what they say, there's nothing certain but death and taxes. There's a lot of money there, but that means lots of potential for people being taken advantage of. All those extra things like the hearse, flower van, and police escort come at a premium. It's easy to upsell people when they're vulnerable, and people are extremely emotional when they're grieving. It's not their fault, but it gets taken advantage of. Hearses have come a long way from the utilitarian vehicles they once were. The luxurious ride, the ornamentality, the ritual of it all, it's a way to honor our deceased and give everyone that person touched one last luxurious send-off. I think hearses are weird and cool, and I hope my grandkids don't spare any expense at my funeral. Hopefully I'll have my S14 hearse running by then. I'm just waiting on a few parts in the mail. Thank you for watching this episode. I know it's kind of a morbid topic, but also it's pretty interesting. If you liked it, hit that like button, maybe consider subscribing if you haven't already. We put up videos almost every day here on Donut. I'm really proud of that. Follow Donut on all social media at Donut Media. Follow me at Nolan J. Sykes. Be kind, that's what matters. I'll see you next time.